Gary, it's great to have you back on so soon after our last chat. Now, I understand you've received some updated log analysis from the drilling program at Borba. What are the logs and gas telling you?
Yes, thanks for the opportunity, Alex. We announced, obviously, earlier on that we'd had 190 feet of good gas shows. And, since then we've drilled to the current TD and run casing at that point after collecting the electric logs. And the reason for running the casing at this point was that the pressures were getting to a point where there's a danger of the pressure being too high for sand reservoirs higher up the hole. So we've decided to set the casing just above the Gwynder. And so when we drill out, we'll go to the Gwynder. But the results of the logs that we have at the moment are that we had a gross pay interval from those petrophysical logs of around 185 feet. We have net pay of 92 feet with potential possible pay up to 137 feet, which we'll come back and test that at a future date. That's a great result. It's confirmed the gas shows. It's confirmed we have reservoirs. We have mud cake indicating permeability in these reservoirs. We're not surprised by that. That's what we expected. These are the known knowns in the basin, and it's all good. This matches up to our first amplitude zone, so now it gives us confidence that we can drill on and drill the other amplitudes and hopefully get as good as or even better result.
So, Gary, from an operational perspective, what are the next steps for you?
Well, as I alluded to, we've already run the 9 5/8 inch casing. The previous images that we released, you released with my last interview, showed the casing all lying on the deck, ready to go in the hole. That casing's in the hole. It's cemented in place. And then we have a little bit of a delay. Well, not a delay, it's planned. We have to install the 10,000 pound PSI rated blowout preventer and manifolds, and all the manifolds have to be welded together, not bolted together, for that pressure to meet the standard. So that's all being done, and that'll all be tested, and then we'll clean the any cement in the hole out. It was a residual from the running the cement to cement the casing in place, drill out the casing shoe, and then go on, drill ahead. And remember, on the plan, from here to total depth of 9,700 feet is one drill run. We'll drill that entire 4,500 feet or so in one. No more casing strings at this point in time are planned.
So Gary, in terms of news flow, what can shareholders look forward to as the world drills ahead?
Well, I think news may not be very far away. Further news. We're sitting just above the Gwynder, which is our second, equivalent to our second amplitude anomaly that we've mapped on 3D seismic. Remember, we've mapped 11, anything up to 27 amplitude anomalies in the area, and we're hoping to test somewhere between 11 and 14, depends on who's counting, in this wellbore. And so that Gwynder, I think, is only probably a couple of 100 feet away. And so not too long after we drill out, maybe in a couple of days, we should be seeing if we've got mudlog shows, gas shows in the Gwynder. The interesting thing about the Gwynder is that we're drilling on a mapped four-way dip structure at the Gwynder. So there's no real stratigraphic component in that. That structure, the Hunt brothers drilled a well in the 90s on the edge of the structure, not intentionally. I think they crossed the fault unintentionally because they may only have had 2D seismic at that point. And they've drilled on the edge of the structure. And that well had 600 feet of gas shows, good gas shows. The upper part of those gas shows had a nicely developed sand. There's 9 feet of log pay in that sand. It's untested. because probably wasn't big enough for the Hunt brothers at that point in time. And but we're going to get 125 feet up dip from that well with log pay in it. And our amplitude anomalies increase at least, just in absolute terms, 350% if we measure them, from the Hunt Borba, which has very little amplitude because it has very thin pay and thin sand, all the way up to where we're going to intercept the structure, 120 feet higher. And we have a much bigger anomaly, 350% bigger anomaly. And so that implies thicker sands, and that's what we're hoping for. And because there's no water contact in that well, any sand that we see above that well should be in pay. So that's the exciting thing that comes up next. And then, of course, we drill on through that, probably increasing mud weight as we go onto the next anomaly. And there is another anomaly at the base part of that 600 feet of gas shows in the Hunt Borba well. The Hunt Borba well didn't go a whole lot deeper. So after that, we're out of real close control, but we're into areas where we've got our 3D and all our 3D anomalies. The other nice thing to date is that the sands in the shallow part of this well is much sandier than the offset wells. And that fits beautifully with our original model for deposition in here and why we think there's potential for more sands at Borba than we saw at Dempsey in these lower zones.
And finally, Gary, a bit of a curly one to finish. I've noticed that Sacgasco has gone into several trading halts over the past month. Can you talk us through why that is? Sometimes
we could have an uninformed market because we've got sensitive information and we don't have time to analyse that and release it without having a trading halt because it's occurring as the market is open. So in order to have a fully informed market and meet our continuous disclosure obligations, there are times where we just have to go into a trading halt, analyse the data and then release it.
Great. Thanks for the update, Gary, and look forward to further news as it comes to hand.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate the opportunity.